It's an attitude, not an expectation. And when it's applied properly, it'll change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it'll change the world.
Welcome to the Cleaning Up Podcast, Millionaire Secrets of the Home Services Industry, brought to you by me, Ron Holt, CEO and founder of Two Maids and a Mop, America's fastest growing cleaning company. I get a chance to sit down with home service industry pros and other entrepreneurial leaders so they can share their stories, their insight, their experiences. It's so much fun. You're going to learn so much. And you're going to be inspired to take your small business into a national brand just like I did. Let's jump right into the interview. Today, we have Dr. Ivan Misner. Ivan is the founder and chief visionary officer of BNI, the world's largest business networking organization. He founded this in 1985. They now have 9,700 chapters throughout the entire world. Last year alone, they generated 12.3 million referrals, resulting in almost $17 billion worth of business for its members. Ivan is a great entrepreneurial story. He's also a thought leader in the referral marketing space. He's written several books, his latest being Who's in Your Room? And I know this interview probably hits home for a lot of our franchisees because we're obviously big proponents of BNI. We've got a large presence in multiple chapters across the country. And so we're going to talk about the BNI story today, but also we're going to talk a little bit more about how to make BNI work for you. So Ivan, welcome to the Two Maids and a Mop podcast.
Thank you very much. And I love the name of your company, by the way. It's a great name.
Oh, well, thank you. We created this, almost 18 years ago now. And when we created the name, there was this vision to build it into a brand that it's becoming today. And it makes sense today, but 18 years ago, when we were inside a 250 square foot office space in Florida, it seemed a little crazy to think that we could be a national brand, at some point. But my guess is you can probably relate to that. If you
I can totally relate to that. We're at 9,700 groups, as you said. And I remember it was in early of 1986. BNI had been around for about a year and a half, mid 1986. And I started doing the numbers thinking, based on what I thought we could do, I told somebody, I think someday, now at this point, this was 86, we had 30 chapters of BNI. And for those people who don't know, we allow one person per profession. They get together every week. They pass each other referrals. Right now, we're getting together online. But we had 30 groups. And I said to somebody, I think it's possible that someday, it'll take a long time, but someday, I think we could have 10,000 chapters. And the guy looked at me and he was like, oh, 10,000? I said, yeah. He said, how many do you have, Ivan? I said, well, we have 30. He said, and you think you could have 10,000? I said, yeah, I think so. I remember him saying, well, it's good to have goals, Ivan. Very good. And here we are. We're scratching close to 10,000 chapters now.
Well, you've got a heck of a story. We could by itself, and I know that every one of our listeners loves a good entrepreneurial, gritty, story. And so I know a little bit about your background, but I'd love for our audience to hear more about how all this sort of started. I'm sure you're like me. I didn't necessarily grow up dying to start a residential cleaning company. And my assumption is that wasn't your life dream either early on.
No, I was actually a management consultant, business consultant when I started BNI. And I started it, and I loved what I did. I was very happy doing what I did. I started it because I couldn't find a network that I liked. I went to some groups that were they were just mercenary. Everyone was trying to sell to me. And I'd go there and I felt like I'd been slimed and I needed to go home and get a shower. Didn't like those kinds of groups. Then I went to these other groups that were totally social. It was happy hour and hors d'oeuvres. Nobody was doing business. And I didn't like those kinds of groups because they were just too social. I wanted to do business. And so what I wanted to do was form a group, one group. I mean, I'd like to tell you I had this vision at that point of an international organization, but I just wanted one group that was focused on business, but was relational, not transactional. And that was, like I said, relational, so it wasn't totally social. And so I would blend the relational and the business together, and the principal core value for it would be giver's gain. This idea that if I give you business, you'll give me business, we can work together and help one another. And someone came to that group who couldn't join because we only take one person per profession, and said, "This is incredible. I'd love to have my own group because I can't join this group. Would you help me open up a second one?" And Ron, I actually told her, "No, this isn't what I do. I'm a business consultant." And she talked me into it. And I opened a second group, and 2 people came to that who couldn't join, and they said, "This is great. Would you help me open a group?" And I'm like, "No, this isn't what I do." And they talked me into it, and that was it. And I was off to the races. And like I said, we had 30 chapters in a year and a half.
Wow, what a story! So, tell me about those. I've, as the founder of Two Maids and a Mob, I have been in those BNI meetings. I've not been in one recently just because of our growth, but I can remember early on in our life as a cleaning service, being inside those meetings, talking to all the local business people, and it's a pretty formal structure, and we'll get to that in a minute. But my assumption is early on, it was sort of the wild, wild west. Take us back to those early days, and what did the typical meeting look like?
Well, you would recognize it. From 36 years ago, you'd recognize it, but it is different. And what we did was we found what worked and we figured out what didn't work. And so we, started focusing on those things that did work and added to it. It was very much what it is today, except, we've added some things like the importance of doing one-to-ones outside the meeting have been added. One of our core values is lifelong learning, education. One of the things I realized early on in BNI is that we don't teach networking in colleges and universities anywhere in the world. It's just not taught. Right. And so one of the things we had to do was build a curriculum to teach people how to network, because most people think of networking as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. "Hi, my name is Ivan. Let's do business." And they go right into selling as opposed to building a relationship. And so we've added, education coordinator has been added to the meetings. The referral reality check. It's one thing to hand out referrals, but are they good referrals? And so the quality control department is basically the membership committee who does every week a referral reality check, or regularly a referral reality check to see, are those referrals that are being handed out really good. So there are things that have been added to the meetings over the years. And here's one thing that was done early on. I created all the policies in the beginning, and some of them ended up being really stupid. And so I had to fix that. And so one of the things I did was I put together what I call a board of advisors for BNI, and the board of advisors are made up exclusively of members. These members created or approved every single policy that exists today for the membership in BNI. And so that was one of the things that was changed about a year into it, was I had the members create the policies, because some of the ones I did, I thought were good, but weren't such a good idea.
Right. I can relate to that as well. So we've got our own ops manual here that I authored early on, and a lot of those systems are still in place. In fact, most are, but there's definitely some that were removed fairly quickly once we started growing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm a big fan, and I maybe even call myself a big nerd when it comes to a good, gritty entrepreneurial story. And I know our franchisees, they're all small business owners, and so they need some inspiration every now and then to get them through some of those valleys that everybody goes through as an entrepreneur. So early on, did you have any struggles? Were there some times that you thought you might go back to business consulting? What were some of those trials and tribulations you went through?
Well, yeah, people look at someone who's created a business with thousands of locations, and they think, it's all smooth sailing, or mostly smooth sailing, and nothing can be further from the truth. The direction, becoming successful, there's a lot of twists and turns in a business, and a lot of problems. We certainly had them. I think one of our biggest, no question about it, our biggest challenge as an organization was transitioning several thousand groups to a one single database platform. And I made the huge mistake of allowing different franchisees to create their own online platform to track clients, to do a number of things that were critical to the business. I allowed them to do it thinking that cream would rise to the top. Man, was I wrong. What happened was we had a whole lot of silos that each franchise, and in some cases, most cases actually, they were master franchises. They were, major franchises that sub-franchised, and each one became a silo, and they would die on the hill fighting for their choice.
Yep.
And you can't you can't get the entire organization on one platform when you have that happening. And that was probably the single biggest mistake I made in the 30 years I ran the company. I no longer run the day-to-day operations of the company, but that was probably the single biggest mistake I made.
I should have talked to you a few years ago. We've had similar challenges. We're a fairly young franchisor. We've been in business for 17 plus years. However, our first franchise didn't open until really late in 2013, and even then, it took us a couple years for us to really start understanding how to be a franchisor and how to support a franchisee. We had to stop being a cleaning service and then start being a cleaning service and a franchisor, which are two separately, there's two totally different businesses.
Distinctly different.
Right. So, yeah, we're probably going to make more mistakes, but we've certainly made our own along the way. Well, so I know that, as you built this, across the globe, which is just amazing. I mean, think about that, almost 10,000 chapters, not just, here in the States or even North America, but that's across the world. That's got to be a dream come true. What does it feel like? What does the mountaintop feel like for all of us, aspiring wannabes that want to, use a business to create a legacy, to create value? What is it? Are you still just as crazy? And is it just as nuts as it was when you were in startup mode, or is it a little bit different?
Well, it's definitely different after, 36 years. It's different. Let's start with your first question. How does it feel? Honestly, it's humbling to see what BNI has become, to see, what a difference it's made in businesses around the world, especially after COVID, where, businesses are struggling. And to see our members so far this year, since January, our members have passed to each other over $9 billion worth of business during COVID, which is mind-boggling to me.
Wow.
that much business could be generated. And it's all being done online. So we really switched on a dime. We flipped on a dime. As a matter of fact, the CEO for BNI, I brought in partners about almost 6 years ago. And so the CEO is running the show these days, and he just was looking around a corner, and he flipped over all of our operations in China to online in January. He flipped Italy in February.
Wow.
And then we flipped the rest of the world in March. So we now have 9,700 groups that almost all meet online. There are some in some areas where there's no COVID cases that are beginning to transition back, but those are very few. The overwhelming majority of our groups still meet online until it's safe for us to get back in person. So it's been an incredible ride. The first 30 years, I was sort of the King Arthur out leading the charge. And today I'm more of the Colonel Sanders of BNI and, the spokesperson and elder statesman for the organization, which is a great role. And I am as excited about BNI today as I was 36 years ago.
That's awesome. Well, we are as well. And like I said, I can remember being in those rooms, and I still remember my very first BNI meeting. It was in Pensacola, Florida. I didn't do a great job. I did the pitch and all that good stuff, but I did not have the giver's gain mantra at the time. I learned later on that the more you give, the more you receive. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
yes,
I thought I was really going to wow them with some free pastries. Turns out that that's not the first time that's been attempted. So
won't be the last time either.
So that was my first one, and I actually walked out of that meeting, even though I butchered it, with a couple of new clients. So
wow.
It was a fun experience for me, because I was this 20-something entrepreneur that didn't know anything. It was actually a new community for me as well. I knew no one in Pensacola, Florida. And so it was a real easy way for me to not just network as a business professional, but also as a person there as well.
And it sounds like you were pretty excited about what you did. I think an entrepreneur is either working in their flame or working in their wax. And when they're working in their flame, they're excited. They love what they do. You can see it in the way they act. You can hear it in their voice. When they're working in their wax, it takes all their energy away. It just, saps all their energy. And you can hear that in their voice, and you can see that in the way they behave. Yeah. And so for an entrepreneur, you got to find your flame. And you got to work in your flame. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get to do what you want to do. So you got to work in your wax. I certainly have. But the quicker you can get out of the wax and into your flame as the majority of your time, the more you're going to love what you do. And it's possible that over the years, and I certainly have, you have to reinvent yourself to continue to stay in a flame. And I've had to do that. But if you're working in your flame, you're going to love what you do. Even if you don't know what you're doing. I think ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice.
Right.
When you're on fire, amazing things can happen.
Well, I'll tell you, from that original meeting in Pensacola, Florida, there were, I can't remember the exact number, but less than a dozen people in there. 2 people, one being me, went on to build national brands. And at the time, we had this other person owned a commercial cleaning company. We were residential. And both of us, had these big dreams in this small town in Pensacola, Florida. And he's went on to build a brand with more than 100 locations, and here we are knocking on the door. So it was a little bit of an all-star class there in Pensacola. Wow. Yeah. So I've read some of your books. I've even seen you being interviewed on CNN and Forbes, and I've heard you called the father of modern networking. And so I know our franchisees want to be great networkers, and so that there's no better resource than you. And so I'd love for us to kind of dig into a little bit of what makes you a great networker, and how, from what I've read, you can turn anyone into a great networker. So, what are some of the what are some of the tenets that we all need to sort of share and embody in order for that to occur?
Yeah, first of all, I think that networking can be learned, and a lot of people assume that an extrovert is a good networker. I mean, I've seen people say, well, he's so extroverted, he's a great networker. Extroverts don't necessarily make a great networker. And introverts often don't make a bad networker. Introverts can be great at networking. So I want to talk about that introvert extrovert, and then give you some specific techniques, things to think of. Extroverts have no problem meeting new people. Because they have no problem talking. But what's their favorite subject, Ron?
Themselves.
Yes, and therein lies the problem with how many extroverts, not all, but many extroverts, how they network. They have no problem meeting people, but they're so focused on talking about themselves, they don't really get to know the other person. A good networker is like a good interviewer. You're asking me questions, and you're allowing me to elaborate. That's what a good networker is. A good networker has one mouth and 2 ears and uses them both proportionately. So an introvert may have challenges in meeting people, but they're much better at listening. And so both have a strength, both have a weakness. You have to understand which one you are, and you have to work on that weakness and run with your strength. So what are some of the specific things that you want to do? Let's start with the BNI. Well, no, let's start with general context, and then we'll drill down to attending groups like BNI. You have to go into it first understanding the mindset, the right mindset of networking, before you can even start talking about skill set, how to network. Most experts on networking don't do that. So what's the right mindset? It's something I teach called the VCP process: visibility, credibility, profitability. You first have to be visible in the community. People have to know who you are. Before you just start asking them for business. Then once you've established visibility, you have to move to credibility. That's where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it because you have a good reputation. Then and only then can you get to profitability, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to refer you on an ongoing reciprocal basis. that is so incredibly important. So VCP, you have to get VCP down before you can do anything else. That's the mindset. Then the skill set are the things that you do once you start going to networking meetings, like BNI or chambers. And there you really have to learn how to do effective one-to-ones. We've found, we have hard data that shows that people who do effective one-to-ones generate twice as much business for themselves and for others as people who do very few of them. So it's one of the reasons why we tell members, meet with your fellow members individually outside a normal BNI meeting. Did you see those take place when you were involved?
No doubt. Yeah, that's the connection. The commercial cleaning business person I was talking about, well, we became personal friends, still are to this day. So absolutely, we had lunch together multiple times. It turned out,
and we found that makes a huge difference. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the BNI meeting served as a sort of jumping off point for us to develop a much stronger relationship, and we still lean on one another as we've grown our brands together. And so we got some business out of it, but probably for me and for him, we probably gained more intellectual property than actual real revenue from it.
Yeah, and we find that the people who do that, though, consistently over time actually get, like I said, twice as many referrals as the people who do very few. The other thing is you got to nail your presentation and start by understanding that when you go to a networking meeting, especially one where you're going there every week and you're getting to know people, it's not about closing a sale. It's about training a sales team. You're teaching people how to refer you. And so it's very important that each and every week you talk about something different that you do, a different product, a different service, a different benefit of a product or service. So let's talk about two maids and a mop. What are two or three things that your company does? I'm looking for your feedback. What are two or three things that your company does that are really specific that would help a client?
Sure. So I think the first, and our franchisees can probably all lead with this story, is we have something I think that's very unique, and it's called the Pay for Performance Plan. Every time we clean a home, we give our customers an opportunity to rate their level of 1 to 10. And that determines not just their satisfaction level, but also the employee's paycheck level. So it's a true ownership mentality that's created because of the Pay for Performance Plan. And we tell that to customers all the time, but we also tell this inside those BNI rooms all the time, and it makes sense, And so that's usually what we believe.
Unique and definitely something that you want to talk about, but don't talk about it every time. Mention it, occasionally, but not every time. But that is incredibly unique. You definitely want to talk about that. Give me a couple more.
Yeah, and the other, this is probably not unique for a lot of people, but in our industry, the ability to schedule online is still rare to find in residential cleaning world, but we can do that. Someone can come, it's, if you want a cleaning this afternoon and it's in the morning, then it's as simple as logging onto the website and booking the cleaning. It's nice. That straightforward. So we use that to our advantage as much as we can. The third, and again, this is sort of unique to our industry, very few residential cleaning companies offer a sort of a one-time purchase option. We call it design with time, which is basically you buy a block of time and we'll do whatever you want us to do. If you want us to clean the refrigerator out, we'll do it. If you want us to clean the bathroom, whatever, we'll do it. Most cleaning companies have these all-inclusive packages that you sort of have to stay in the lane with, but we have those, but we also have the one where if you just want to pick and choose what you want us to do, we'll do that.
Great. Give me one more.
You're pushing me here. This is something I'm very proud of, and it's something that we are pushing across our network as much as we can right now, especially during COVID. And it's this idea of customer experience. We want to be known as a great house cleaning company, but we really would prefer to be considered, the experience, what you remember about the cleaning, hopefully will be something beyond just the quality of the cleaning. And so we do a lot of things across the country that are really different and outside the box. And all we're really trying to do, whether it's a handwritten note or a funny letter we might leave, or some kind of trinket. Like if someone's a big Dallas Cowboy fan, we might figure out how to find a old Roger Staubach autographed jersey and leave it behind,
Oh, nice.
So, we do those kind of things to really create a strong bond. We call it customer experience. And so that's sort of a subjective measure, but it's something that we really like to be known for.
Okay. So if you were a BNI member, if I was talking to a BNI member, I would say, take those 3 things that you just gave me and see if you can divide them even further. That last one, you could probably divide into 10 different stories or more. And so in order to really be effective in a networking group you talked about, the Roger Staubach, the customer experience. What are a lot of different customer experiences? Get really granular. And you don't have to do that now, but what I would tell a member is get incredibly granular. Take that 3rd topic and break it down to 10 different talks. In most BNI chapters, you only have 30 seconds to a minute to do your weekly presentation, depending on the size of the group. Break it into 10 different talks. Then take that second one that you had and break that into 3, 4, 5, as many different talks as you can. So you think of literally 50 different specific presentations. And you create 2 maids in a mop curriculum. And that curriculum spans over the course of the year. And put that in your calendar and get yourself a reminder 24 hours in advance. You don't have to think about what you're going to say. Just have the general topic. Put it in your calendar. Remind yourself the day before. Then come up with a specific story that relates to that topic. Then go into the meeting and get incredibly specific about what you do. Because the truth is, the more specific you are in your presentation, the easier it is for someone to remember you. I will forever remember you talking about leaving the Starbucks, Roger Staubach, his jersey. I'll remember that. That stands out in my mind. And so the more you can put something in people's minds for them to remember when they're out talking to somebody, the easier it is then for you to get a referral. And that's probably one of the key things, skill set factor in networking effectively.
That's such a powerful way to think about, I guess I've really never thought of any networking as sort of being a thought leader or an instructor or a professor even, and educating someone using a curriculum. But I think that's probably one of the biggest pitfalls a lot of people make when it comes to BNI, in my opinion, is that there's not a lot of preparation. It's just sort of show up and see what happens kind of mentality. But.
Right. That's exactly it. And then you just talk about in general terms what it is that you do. So that doesn't help much. If you're I conceptually know what a maid service is. What I need to know is what's special about yours. And the more you can get granular, specific is terrific when it comes to doing weekly presentations. The more you can get granular in talking about what you do, the better it is. And this is counterintuitive. This is like remember driver's ed where they said you turn into a skid. And that feels like really counterintuitive, but it works. You have to turn into a skid. The truth is that if you're doing weekly presentations with any kind of network like BNI, you got to get incredibly specific. The challenge is that people want to say everything they do.
Right.
That's you want to do that because I need you to know everything I do. Well, you will. You got next week and the week after that and the week after that and the week after that. I mean, if you're trying to, don't pitch to the visitors because the visitors will know that you're a cleaning service. That's fine. What you're doing is training a sales force. And in order to train a sales force, you're giving them 30-second to 1-minute bites of what you do. Get so incredibly granular that you can say almost everything about that topic in a minute.
So I have a question for you. Hopefully this isn't too on the spot here, but so let's assume that in your twilight years, you've decided to become a Two Maids and a Mop franchisee.
Okay, got it.
You've got your 30 to 60 seconds at the new BNI chapter there in Texas. So how would, now that you know a little bit about us, what would be your 30 to 60 second pitch?
Mine would really lean on the various stories that you have about the customer experience, because I think the customer experience is really critical. And so the more you can give real life examples, the better. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest strengths I see in many BNI meetings are people who show before and after pictures. And if you've got a client that is willing to, let's say you're coming into a place and it's, a disaster, and they're willing to allow you to take a picture, I would do a before and after. The
That's
more
a
you
great
can
idea.
do that, the better. Also, I'm sure that there are specific cleaning techniques that you train your people on for particularly maybe it's doing a carpet, maybe it's mopping the floor, maybe it's cleaning the bathroom. Why not show what it is you do through a photograph? Here is a room, and here is what we do in that room. And you get really specific about how you mop the floor, clean a toilet, whatever it is, so that people can actually really truly visualize the kind of work that you're doing. And that's what I would do, is I would just get laser specific. I would use photographs whenever possible. I would certainly use endorsements, and I would use the visitor experience stories probably as much or more than anything. In BNI, we believe that there are 4 key success factors in building a BNI region. It's about opening chapters, it's about filling chapters, it's about retaining members. But the 4th is telling stories. You got to learn how to tell stories.
I totally agree. I've always felt that consumer services in particular, even more specific, residential cleaning, had a little bit of a leg up on a lot of other members of BNI, because we get sort of multiple opportunities to pitch. Not only do the other members, go out and potentially refer business for us, they're our salespeople sort of by extension, but everyone in the group also lives in a home, and they also own a business or manage a business, which means they run busy lives. And so it's not, if you're a lawyer, you as a fellow member, you may not need legal services all the time, but there's a pretty clear opportunity for us to, if nothing else, just to market to the members in the group.
Yeah, absolutely. That is very true. The advantage of that is not just getting the client, which clearly is something you want, but it's the advantage is that people can actually experience your service firsthand, which makes it even easier for them to refer you. If all you're doing is selling to the people in the room, you're missing the point completely in BNI. And I know you know that, but I want to clarify that. It's not the people in the room that count. It's the people in the room who know other people outside the room. That's critical. Now, and you're right, you have an advantage because the people in the room are likely to need your service more than maybe some other businesses. And that is an advantage because then it's even easier for them to refer people they know. I don't know if you're familiar with a concept called the Dunbar number. The Dunbar number is the average number of people that it's thought that can be friends with an individual. Now, the Dunbar number is 150, that we as individuals know it on average about 150 people by name. We know them personally. Now, of course, Facebook has created a whole different vision of what a friend is, but I'm talking about real true friends, about 150. So it's not, the average chapter size worldwide is just under 30. So let's say you have a chapter of 30 members. It's not the 30 members in the room that counts. It's the almost 5,000 people that those 30 members know.
Wow. When you think of it that way, that's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's what you have to think of is what can I do to build a relationship with these 30 so that the almost 5,000 people they know, they would be willing to refer. That's why you want to train a sales force, because the sales force of 30 knows, almost 5,000.
So you talked about mindset early on in the interview. I'd like to kind of go back to that real quickly. I know that if there's been any issues we've had with networking in general, it's that people's expectations may be a little bit too grandiose. They may want things right now, tomorrow, in fact. And sometimes that happens. It happened with me. In my first meeting, we walked out with 2 customers. But what should be the mindset? What should be the expectation for someone that's entering a new BNI chapter?
So first is that networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. It's about cultivating relationships. And when you go into a group like BNI, you're going to hear numbers as to what the average amount of business is done in the chapter. It's not uncommon in BNI, and we have some groups that have way more than this, but an average of around $30,000 in business per member. But here's the problem with throwing around an average number. If your head is in the freezer and your feet are in the oven, on average, you're okay. And that's clearly not the case. So the problem with an average number is that it takes people who've been in the chapter 10 years and people who've been in the chapter for 10 weeks and averages them. And so when you hear the average numbers that are going into a chapter, setting expectations, which I think is a variation of a phrase you just used, is really critical. You have to have the right expectations. And the right expectations are, you may not hit that average. You're likely to not hit that average that first year. But what we have seen is people who are in for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years exceed that average as a rule, because they're giving it time. There is something we teach on in BNI called the time confidence curve. And the time confidence curve basically says, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, the longer you have a relationship with someone, the higher their confidence will be in your product or service. Now, I would think a maid service has a shorter time confidence curve than many businesses. Let me give you an example. A florist has probably one of the shortest time confidence curves. People are willing to try a florist immediately, or close to immediately. Whereas a printer would be a little longer, a real estate agent would be longer, a financial planner investing someone's retirement is on the furthest end of the scale of the time confidence curve. A cleaning service is probably on the shorter end of the curve. So the time confidence curve may be a year or less, but you gotta give it, my advice is, more than a year of building relationships with people. I'll give you a great example. Financial planner, different business, but here's the point. Was in a group for 3 years, it certainly made his money back, but he hadn't made a ton of money. And he had talked to the director about whether, actually it was 2 years, I take it back, whether he should do that third year or not. And the director said, look, you're in the toughest business of all. You got to give it the third year. He was 1 week into his third year. He said, yeah, okay, I'll give it 1 more year. He was 1 week into his third year, got the biggest client of his entire career. Had he said no, he'd have been 1 week off of getting his biggest client. And so that is not uncommon. Now, again, with a cleaning service, it's not the same as a financial planner. It's easier, I think, to get referrals than a financial planner, but it still takes time.
Well, that certainly hits home. And I think that, we've talked a little bit about it here, giver's gain. And if in almost any walk of life, the more you give to something, usually the more you get back. And so, I know that I was guilty early on in BNI of really, and I think probably most people are guilty of this, really wanting something out of it more than expecting to give something to that. But if you can, if you can have that mindset that I need to give as much as, if not more than I get, then in the end, you're right. The ROI is going to be astronomical.
It is. And giver's gain's more than a phrase. It's a way of living one's life. It's a perspective to view and interact with the world. It's an attitude, not an expectation. And when it's applied properly, it'll change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it'll change the world. And that's our vision statement, is changing the way the world does business. And we want to do it using that principal core value of giver's gain.
Well, you've been a huge part of our success here. Hopefully we'll have even more franchisees across the country utilizing your services after this interview. And Ivan, it was a true honor, honestly, today to talk to you. You're an entrepreneurial legend and have had so much success that we all as entrepreneurs would dream about having. And so a true honor to get to talk to you today. If there's any way any of our franchisees could reach out to you directly or learn more about you to connect, please let them know, and we'll kind of talk about some other opportunities to reach out to as well.
Yeah, we'd love to formalize a relationship with Two Maids and a Mop. Anyone who's interested in BNI can certainly go to bni.com and get information on local chapters, which are all in the U.S., all meeting online right now. And if anyone wants information, just some general educational information, my website, ivanmisner.com. That's MISNER, ivanmisner.com. A ton of free stuff up there. And I've been blogging twice a week since 2007. So there's a lot of content up there that's all free and can help you build a powerful personal network. Let me leave you with one last thought, if I can.
You bet.
You know the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know?
Of course, yeah.
I don't think it's either. I don't think it's what you know or who you know. It's how well you know each other that really counts. Because you may have an amazing database of names. You may have some really great names in your contact list. But the real question is, could you pick up the phone and call that person? Would they take your call? And if they took your call and you asked them for a favor, would they be willing to do the favor? So it's not just who you know. It's how well you know each other that really makes a difference in building a powerful personal network. And I'll leave you with that today, Ron.
That's powerful stuff. This entire interview was impactful for me, and I know it was for our audience as well. So Ivan, again, thank you for being a part of this podcast. A true honor, and we can't wait to keep working and growing with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey guys, Beth Lovett in Business Development. If you enjoyed this episode, then please share with your friends, and don't forget to tune in to the next episode of Cleaning Up. Have you ever wondered if you wanted to be in business for yourself? If so, then don't hesitate to give me a call at 205-789-8027 or email me at bethl@ineedamaid.com. And if you just want a window shop, then you can see us online at twomaidsfranchise.com.